Hello, department chairs. This is my reminder of the steps involved in completing the program assessment annual duties, and particularly focused on the findings or analysis of results that have occurred after you've done much of your work. So again, as a brief reminder, refresher, as part of the annual process to collect and examine student learning data, you will remember that you are able to choose which learning outcome, not necessarily all, or two, you would like to examine in the particular year. In this example, I am in the 24-25 academic program assessment plan for Gen Ed. So I am using this as an example of a program where you do, again, on the upper right-hand corner, have the ability to select which learning outcomes you would like to focus on in the particular year. And all 6 of the learning outcomes for general education are, of course, available for all programs. But I am using this as an example just to highlight that I've selected 2 in particular. And this one already has an example of a measurement activity in it, where for professional readiness, we are using SDV 100 and a vision board assignment to measure student learning. What I've done here is reminded us that we are looking at a particular assignment. We have a target that is what the faculty or the department chair will say is a reasonable target to indicate some level of learning, some level of knowledge on this assignment. This assignment was scored with a rubric, and a score of 2 or above to the faculty member, to the department chair, indicates that the student understands or knows what the faculty member is expecting them to do. The results section, again, allows you to choose different formats. We have chosen, rather than deleting and starting again, to upload the files. A summary is provided, again, just some sample data that the students scored on the rubric, an X out of 2 out of 3, perhaps, or a 1 out of 3 after the files or after the data were examined. So I am assuming in this example that all of this has occurred already, that the assignment score was looked at, the summary was provided here. Again, as a reminder, Watermark can pull in results from Canvas if a rubric score was used on an assignment in Canvas. Watermark can do that. In this case, I pretended that it did not work that same way, even though we do have a score. My authority to pull information from Canvas is not the same as yours. You have more privileges in that regard than I do. What I wanted today to mention that this findings analysis is the important part and almost the last part of this whole exercise. So you've gathered results, you've looked at them. This is you providing some level of judgment, whether or not students met or did not meet your expectations of a score. And then some brief sense, I was kind of being silly here with why, but some brief sense of your interpretation or your analysis or your judgment of the students either performed at the level you expected them to or did not, and why. Briefly, 2 to 3 sentences at the most here, not very long. This is the findings part of your exercise each year, that you gathered student evidence, looked at it, made a judgment based on the results, and input the judgment here. The final step is just to have a so what about it. In this case, I am pretending that everything worked out the way I wanted it to, and I'm going to maintain the assessment strategy moving into next year. If I wanted to do something a little more radical, maybe I would revise the benchmark, right? Maybe I set my scores too low. Maybe I would think about giving them a little bit more challenge in the assignment. Maybe I would add another expectation in advance of the class. I don't know. I'm just sort of creating different suggestions here for consideration. But attaching some sort of an action or some sort of follow-up to this exercise is what matters the most. And then we've got this recorded. Again, base expectation is that every learning outcome, SLO3 in this case, has at least one measure connected to it. Then a final overview of the assessment or of the learning outcome could be provided, and all that assessment activities could be summed up again, with the judgment of the department chair or the faculty to whether or not what was learned was sufficient. So that was the brief overview that I wanted to provide today. Again, a lot of work in reality has occurred prior to this step, and this is just at the end saying, this is what I think has occurred, and these are the reasons why that has happened. Thanks for tuning in.